Well, here I am behind the boards at the campus radio station in my hometown. I've done volunteer radio for over half of my life now, and it's about half of my life ago that I first started noticing symptoms that could now be explained as ulcerative colitis starting to happen. Now, I was going to wait about a week after the first video before posting another one so that everybody had the time to digest what I was saying. Because yes, I do admit it is a bold statement when I said that I was able to conquer ulcerative colitis mostly with diet, but definitely without surgery, and now with no pills in my daily routine. But when I saw that there were some people who thought that I wasn't understanding their suffering, I wanted to share how I suffered, and I do remember how I suffered. So the way you are suffering, trust me, I have been there, and I'm glad I'm no longer there. I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. Now, going back to about the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, I noticed that nights where I slept less, missed out on sleep, 4 hours, 5 hours instead of the 7 or 8 I required, I'd wake up the next day, and throughout the day, whenever I felt I had to pass gas, I would go to the washroom instead, because I was never sure if those would be, as we usually term them, wet farts. And so I'd go to the washroom a little more often, more than a little more often, than I would on a day where I was well rested. I thought nothing of it. It was normal for me. And when I went to university, I was not exactly following a strict diet or even a healthy diet. And I'm sure I'm not the only college student who's indulged in all kinds of junk food to get by. But I noticed the more I would forego sleep for studies, for cramming, for partying, the next day, yes, I have to go to the washroom. And quite often. But sometimes I'd have to rush. I remember one occasion in which I was walking back from the cafeteria, and going down the hill I realized halfway that I really needed to go to the washroom. And I had to stop several times just to flex my anal muscle and stand absolutely still to avoid having the need get bigger and overcome me. Now, again, I thought of this as regular, just lack of sleep. And it came to the point where I considered it normal that 10 minutes after I had a meal, I would need to go to the washroom. That, to me, made sense. On my first trip overseas coincided with the first symptoms that something may not be right. Before that trip to London and Amsterdam, I had tried a couple of topical solutions, or in one case, caplets for, I'm sure you see that I don't have a full head of hair, and I was doing anything I could to keep it and bring more of it out. And I noticed while I would take those topical solutions or those capsules that I would get constipated quite a bit. We're talking 2-3 weeks in a row. And so I'd drop whatever I was using, and my bowels would return to what I called normal. Now I went over to London and Amsterdam, indulged in quite a bit of yogurt, which I felt brought me energy and sustenance. Tried sushi for the first time, and I kind of enjoyed it. And I was also using a couple of things around that time that maybe I shouldn't have, like a electrical exercise belt, the one that stimulates your muscles to contract, thus replacing exercise, which I was using on my abdomen. And about a month after my trip, I got constipated again. Okay, I thought it was the topical hair solution I was using, so I threw that out. Kind of solved the thing. Then on December 31st, 2002, I came into work with soup that I bought at a fast food / health food place. A co-worker who was sensitive to chemicals and preservatives and the like due to former illness told me right off the bat when I opened my soup that she could smell the preservatives. Half an hour later, I was running to the washroom with diarrhea. I ran to the washroom 3 times that day. On New Year's Day, after playing a gig the night before for New Year's Eve, I thought I was better. Then for the next month, recurringly, one day I thought I was okay. The next day I'd have to run to the washroom. I'd be sitting in front of a computer over at work on a Friday night, just socializing, chatting or whatnot. And all of a sudden, oop, there it came. I had to run, because if I didn't run, I was staining my pants with this paste or gel that was coming out of me. Sometimes it looked a little redder, sometimes it looked a little browner, but it wanted out. And every time that I failed in making it to the washroom in time, I'd get pretty exhausted, probably due to feelings of self-defeat. But after about a month's time, it started getting worse. I'd wake up in the middle of the night thinking, okay, why am I awake? Then all of a sudden, woof, it was like, hello, gotta run to the washroom. Gotta run. Hello, coming out. Oh, too late. I started noticing that food supplements that I would take, such as chlorella, which is a single-celled chlorophyll supplement, would come out exactly as it had gone in. And also the thing for silicone gel that I was taking for my health, maybe misguidedly. But I was noticing more and more that if I took certain of those things, they were coming right out of me exactly the same as they'd gone in. And in February 2003, I had my first full-blown flare-up. I woke up in the middle of the night, ran to the washroom. By this point, I knew that if I woke up, even if I didn't feel like I had to go to the washroom, I had to go right away. Because within 30 seconds, I would have the need. And I probably wouldn't be able to control it. And it was quick, but came the day of the big flare-up, every hour on the half hour, throughout the night, throughout the day, running to the washroom, painful, burning, bleeding, water coming out of me like crazy, feces coming out of me like crazy, hurting. I underwent a week of that. Went over to the doctor after the 3rd day of feeling that. What they did was put me on antibiotics, amoxicillin if I remember correctly, to get out the infection in case there were any. After taking all my prescribed doses of amoxicillin and really hurting in the process, no energy, listless. I'm happy I was working from home, because otherwise I couldn't have left the house. Always having to run to the washroom, which was pretty much the only time that I had energy, because it was fearful energy. I knew that I was going to stain myself seriously if I didn't run. And after finishing the antibiotics, then they put me on Apo-Prednazone. Okay, by this point I literally told the doctor that I had ceased to exhibit any emotion or feel any emotion, because, hey, as I told him, if I smile, I have to go shit. If I cry, I have to go shit. If I get angry, I have to go shit. Sorry to be so blunt here, but that's exactly how I told him. And then I said, so I refuse to show any emotion. With the prednisone, I was amazed, first off, at how bad it tasted, and secondly, how immediately afterwards I ran for a bottle of V8 juice and crackers, gobbled them to get that bad taste out of my mouth. And then after I drank and eaten, I stopped and realized that was the first thing I could get anything down into me since the flare had begun. Anything concrete which I had been able to stomach. And the prednisone was great, but it didn't